Hey everybody, so as you may have seen in a recent video, I did the 5 things, not the 5 things because there's many more, but 5 things that I love about my DRZ400, it's actually a 440. If you want to watch that video, check out the card at the end of the video or go onto my channel, subscribe while you're there and watch that. But in this one is the 5 things that I hate. Now hate is a strong word, I don't actually hate these things, but I don't like them. One of the things that I mentioned about this bike that I loved was just basically the engine, the power, the performance and the way that is. You know, it's a single cylinder, it's very torquey, it's a really fun bike to ride. But with that comes some problems. This bike in ways actually has the capabilities of a 125. Because although yes, it's going to get to 60 a hell of a lot faster than any 125, it doesn't really like sitting at anything above about 65 miles an hour. 70 miles an hour is kind of okay, but the engine is revving a little bit high. And this sort of engine is not designed to sit on a motorway at 70 mile an hour, you know, just revving away. It doesn't like it. And indeed, that is one of the reasons that it had a lot of problems, and I'll get onto those in a minute. Also, obviously on motorways, there is zero wind protection, so much so that the pain that I get because of that is hip pain, because I'm sort of bracing myself and it gets me in the hips for some reason. So yeah, number 1 on the list, although it's not in any particular order, is this bike's basic inability to be a good bike for going long distance. Now remember, some of the things I'm saying here are specifically about my bike and not them in general. I really like the fact that this has got, you know, the bendable plastics on it, but personally for me on my bike, I don't like my plastics because they're all scratched and a bit old and a bit tatty, and it does in ways make the bike look a little bit rougher. I am going to actually do some work to this sort of below to clean up some of the bits of rust and stuff that I've got on it. That's some upcoming videos. But my fairings, as I say, are a bit scratched. I mean, I've got a little bit of a scratch on here. There's some marks on here. You know, these have got some scratches down them. The tank is absolutely fine, thankfully. The white ones particularly have got a lot of scuffs and marks and scratches on them. And the problem is, the reason why I don't want to attempt to sand these down is because getting hold of parts of this bike in the UK is a pain in the butt. Not all parts, some parts are perfectly easy. There's some companies out there that have got loads of stock, you know, third-party parts for this bike, so that's fine. But when it comes to things like the plastics, if you want blue and white plastic kits in the UK, you're not in much luck. You can get the white ones on eBay for about 50 quid, I think, for just this one and this side, but the tail's going to be separate, this will be separate, this will be separate, this will be separate. I've looked into this. Jake, the Garden Snake, has helped me with this because he's been looking in the US, because this bike is very popular in the US. You can get kits out there which are only, you know, $100 or something, but the problem is when you add on postage, you're looking at about the same prices. Some of the parts over there were only available OEM, like they would be here, and as I say, the price from America with the postage works out being about the same for the UK. So to replace all of the plastics on this, not the handguards, they're obviously an add-on, although they also are quite bashed, would be about £300 or £400. And in ways I would love to do that. I would love to get some brand new plastics on it, but in other ways I wouldn't, because then I wouldn't want to scratch them. So I would want to keep these, but I would like to also try and restore them. So, but I don't want to do that unless I've got new ones to put on if it all goes wrong, and then I've got a spare set. So yeah, that's one of the things about this bike that I don't really like. I've had it for about 5 years. It is a 2008, so you know, it's showing its age a bit, but it is what it is, I guess. Number 3 on the list is the brakes. They're not very good. The rear's fine, single disc, single piston caliper, does anything you need it to do, because, you know, rear brakes, they're kind of on or they're off. But the front one is quite a different story. I've done everything I can to improve the brakes on this. It's a 310mm rotor. It is a dual piston setup. I have rebuilt that piston. I have rebuilt the master cylinder, and the brakes are vastly improved from when they were in the past. In fact, they were quite bad in the past, to the point that I was riding Baron von Grumbel's HP4, and I was got used to the brakes on that, and then as soon as I jumped back on this, the first corner I went into, put the brakes on and nothing was happening, and sure enough, thankfully, I overran slightly into some gravel, but survived. It was probably one of my closest calls and one of my silliest closest calls, but it's because I literally jumped off a bike with unbelievable brakes onto something which had pretty bad brakes at the time. These are vastly improved since then, but still not great. Yes, you can buy some extension kits for the caliper, so you can put on a bigger disc, But the problem with that is once you get a bigger disc on this bike, because it's all sat inside that 17-inch rim, if you want to take the front wheel off, you have to take the caliper off to get it all out, and you are probably going to end up scratching up your rims at some point. It's already kind of like that, trying to get the rear wheel off with the caliper just slightly inside the wheel, but it's not too bad. But yeah, I know from some people who've done this, if you put those larger discs on the front, it makes it a bit of a nightmare to get off. Not the end of the world at all, and it can obviously be a good solution for this bike, but it is something to be aware of if you think about upgrading your brakes. Because you might get them and think, oh, hang on, these don't fit. They do. You just have to sort of finagle them in, as it were. They're not bad brakes, but for the way that you like to ride this, you know, short squirts, lots of power, fast into a corner, get on the brakes, dump through the box, you know, to get plenty of engine braking, as you do when you ride a supermoto, it would be nice if I had some more powerful front end brakes for the emergencies. Number 4 on my list is everything that has gone wrong with this bike since I got it. I've had this bike for about 5 or 6 years at this point, I think. I can't quite remember, but it's been a while, isn't it? Because I know some of you are now going, what? I remember when you did that reveal with the little pink girl's bike. Yeah, that was like 5 years ago. Since then, I bought this bike with about 12,000 miles on it. It's now got nearly 30,000 miles on it. After a couple of years, it became apparent that it was burning some oil. Knowing that in the past that this was ridden to Scotland, I imagine it probably did a decent amount of time on the motorway. Maybe someone starved it of oil at some point, but the piston was a little bit scorched, and the bore was a little bit worn, and it was letting some oil through. These naturally use about 1 litre of oil per 1,000 miles that you do. That is the spec. It was going a bit beyond that, more like 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, something like that. Knowing that it was going to be something that was going to get worse and worse, knowing it was probably not running as well as it should have done, I decided to look into getting those things fixed. And unfortunately, the original kit, the OEM parts from Suzuki, would have cost me, just for the piston and the head alone, £1,600. Thankfully, Cylinder Works, I believe, is the one I've got in this. Do a 440 kit, forged pistons, you know, the whole kit to just change the whole top end. Well, the barrel and, you know, not the top end, but, you know, the middle bit. 350 quid, roughly, something like that. It's been in there years, it's going absolutely great. Mechanically now, this bike is great. It's better than it's ever been, probably. You might now say, well, is that it? No, that's not it. Then you'll know a few years back, well, I thought the engine had blown up because basically I'm going along, there was a very loud bang, and the back wheel locked up. I instantly yanked the front brake in and was like, well, this big bore kit I've put in, it's just blown up. You know, that's what I'd assumed. It took a little bit of time to actually find out that what had happened was that the spark plug had blown itself out the top of the engine. Now, this might have been because at some point someone cross-threaded it. That's quite easy to do because of the inaccessibility of the spark plug on this bike. You have to use a special tool, and if someone's not careful, they could cross-thread that. Maybe it just came loose at some point and it was rattling. Then I should have heard the gas going, but basically it blew itself with a very loud bang out the top of the engine, and that was something that had to be fixed. The reason that probably happened was because half the cooling system wasn't working properly. The thermostats weren't working properly, the radiator cap wasn't working properly. That's actually a functional part. It needs to do its job, and if it's not working the way it should, it can actually stop the system properly working, to my understanding. So basically this bike was running way too hot at that point. A lot more money went into it, new parts, bits and pieces. I mean, I think the replacement cap on the radiator was something like 40 or 50 quid. And things, yes, you can go around searching for them from a scrapyard and stuff like that, but is it going to be functioning? Is it going to have the same problem the current one does? You're going to save that much money in the long run? Probably not, when you've got all the other bits you've got to get anyway. So I had to pay the price and paid a lot of money for a plastic cap with a spring in it. One other thing which I'm going to include in this one is the fact that this header pipe, the mid pipe point, always leaks, nearly always. The problem is the mid pipe is slightly too big, or should we say the header is slightly too small, so you can't ever get a proper seal there by just joining them together. You can compact as much exhaust sealant in there as you like. It is going to blow it out. The compression on this thing is mad, and it doesn't matter what happens, the vibrations, the compression, within a couple of weeks, it's going to blow it all out of there. The way I've solved that is I use, I think I've got Coke can in there, or beer can, that I've taken a strip from, wrapped around, filled with all of the sealant, got it wedged in between there, it's all cranked down, and that kind of works, and that actually did work for a couple of months. But I think there is some leaking gases again. The true solution to this would be to swage up this pipe just a little bit if I had the swaging tool to do it, so it's a tight fit, and then it would seal perfectly fine. It's kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world. However, other than those few small things that cost, you know, at least half the cost of the bike when I purchased it new in the first 3 years, this is the problem. When you love a bike as much as I love this bike, you will just keep driving money into it. And thankfully, of course, I'm not going to forget this, it was the support of my audience that helped get this bike back on the road, and the reason why it's still here. And it's also one of the reasons why I'll never sell it. And that is a perfect segue onto number 5, which is I hate how much I love this bike, because I don't know that I can ever sell it. I have considered selling both the bikes I have now and buying one bike. You know, it would be cheaper on insurance, it would be easier. There are many benefits to having more than one bike, which I've done videos on. You can have 2 extremes of different bikes rather than having just one. If one breaks, you've got another one to ride instantly. If something's broken on it, you need to work on it again, you've got another bike to use. So it's great to have 2 bikes, but equally, it would be nice to get rid of both of them and, you know, get something different one day. But I don't see myself ever selling this bike because of, as I say, how much I love the thing, and I'll just keep working on it and keep putting money into it. So as I say, one of the reasons that I hate this bike is because I love it so much. These are tools at the end of the day, they are things that do a job. But considering I have, you know, I've called it Derek, it has such a story connected to it, you can tell it's a bit more than just a tool to me. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to watch the first part, the 5 things I love about this bike. I don't like hating on bikes. Poor little things, they hurt their feelings. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe, and if you really want to help me out, consider joining my Patreon for $1 a month. You get videos early, you'll get your name at the end of the video, like the people, in just a moment. It's the reason I'm able to do this. I am completely supported by YouTube revenue and my Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to see future videos. This channel is made possible by the support of the audience. Please consider joining my Patreon to get early access to videos, questions answered in the monthly Q&A, your name on screen, and some exclusive content, all for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the links in the description to my merch and other ways to directly support the channel. Thanks for watching.